Yes, sir.
Thanks for opening up.
Thanks.
I have a safety question. My wife wants me to wheel all the time.
Okay.
How or where are the crash forces distributed across the vehicle?
So we have a big crumple zone in the front. We actually have over 650 millimeters of crushable space in the front of the vehicle. To get a 5-star crash rating in the US, you need about 550 millimeters of crushable space. We actually had the highest roof crush strength of any passenger car on the road when we last tested it, so rollover strength is great. We got a big boxed out section by your H point. Most side impact injuries come at your hip. So we did an extra job protecting that, and obviously expect to do really well on the full frontal and offset frontal crash test. The offset frontal in particular basically is a glancing blow that kind of takes the wheel off. So we're very unique in that we have a lot of mass outside of the vehicle where other companies have to account for the mass inside the vehicle. So offset frontal and full frontal crash tests have simulated very well, and the simulations are very good now. So we have gone through all those testing before, but it was with the previous iteration of this vehicle. So the body structure was a good bit different. So we have to retest now, and we probably won't get to that testing till March or April. But we will publish.
That's 5 vehicles that are going to get crash tested?
That's a good question. I think we're down to 4 now. The cool thing is that if you don't obliterate the vehicle in one crash test, you can use it for another crash test. So like the full frontal crash test, we don't think it's going to damage the vehicle very much. So then you can actually use it for the side impact too. So
And an independent company, right?
yeah, an independent third-party company will take it through the test and do all that. It's not cheap, but that's what we'll do.
And how about pedestrian crash?
Yeah, pedestrian crash is mostly in the very pointy nose part of it. Our vehicle is very low. A lot of what happens is the occupant slams their head against the hood. When you have an engine that's very high in the hood, there's no way for it to crush down, so you bounce off the engine basically. We don't have any of that in the front of our vehicle, so pedestrian safety is quite unique.
More of a glancing blow than.
Well, more of a bouncy blow. So instead of hitting something hard, it's something relatively soft.
Strength and weight question about carbon fibers and handling that little piece is so powerful.
Yes.
That was all like steel or whatever. How much like weight and what's the?
It's about 9 times stronger than steel by weight, but it really is how you design a composite part. Composite parts do good in boxed sections. So really it's more often about the geometry of the part than the actual material qualities of the part. And historically, automotive companies have tried to shift from aluminum to steel, but they just try to replicate the steel part with some other material, and that's not the way to do it. If you're going to design a carbon fiber vehicle, you have to design the chassis from the ground up, and it has to be very unique for the material properties. The great thing about fibers, you can transmit load from one area to another area of the vehicle. Steel and aluminum, they just deform. So there are benefits to steel and aluminum for sure, but for our chassis, 9 times stronger than steel sounds great.
And to follow up on that quickly, what kind of chemical environmental impacts from creating that carbon fiber?
The cool thing about the carbon fibers, there's very little waste. There's less than 0.5% of trimmings when you actually produce a part. There's a little flashing that comes out of the side. Like when you injection mold a part, you like a little slag on the side. So they cut that off, and you can actually recycle that material up to 5 times back into a structural part. So from an environmental perspective, it's a quality material. You use almost all of it. There's not a lot of recycle. In steel and aluminum and even the old hand-laid composites, the waste can be up to 30% of your material. So, we hate for, any material that goes into the Aptera to be wasted. The cool thing about an Aptera, because it uses so little energy per mile and it's so little weight, what you start with from a transportation device has already impacted the earth much, much less. Our battery pack is 1/4 of the average battery pack. A 25 kilowatt hour battery pack is going to get you 250 plus miles of range. So when you do that and you use much less material to create the device, to create your vehicle from the start, you're just starting in a much better place for the environment, and every mile you drive, you're using less energy. So, yes, sir?
In the unlikely horrifying event of a crash, where the VINC parts are smashed up, does Aptera have plans for accepting those parts back for recycling?
Yes. Any of those parts can be decommissioned and put back into the hopper for more parts to be made.
So you're going to have someplace
It'll be part of our service plan, so if a part of the vehicle is damaged beyond repair, it would go to that service location. We would send out a new part, and we would give them whatever means to send back the old part once they have it. So, yeah.
Okay, as a potential second owner of the auto cycle, I have several questions. One, like what's happening in Chicago, they couldn't start the Lexus. Is there something that if you happen to be up in the mountains one weekend where it snows and you had your Aptera there, is there some way to protect it and keep it warm so that you can start the engine, or would it fail?
Yeah, we use a very similar chemistry to Tesla in our batteries. So, those batteries are still, subject to extreme cold weather difficulties. But the way we heat our batteries, is such that we can precondition the batteries before charging and hopefully prevent any of that cold weather stuff. The great thing about a body structure that's insulative is it's much better to heat and cool the interior of a vehicle. So if you have steel or aluminum, everything's a heat sink around you. Everything, transmits the heat outward or inward. But when you're driving around in basically a thermos, it's much easier to heat and cool the vehicle. So getting your battery pack hotter is easy.
That is,
Yeah.
your company accepting anybody to be an ambassador for your vehicle before you become an IPO?
We are. Talk to Audra back here. She handles our ambassador program. We have over 1,000 ambassadors now around the world. They're telling our story. They're telling all the great things about us, and they're getting people to invest. We've done the largest crowdfunding in history now. We have over 16,000 investors in Aptera, and average investment is $4,700, and it's amazing to have so many people that have really bought into the idea of solar mobility for all, and it's really cool to see so much support in ambassadors. So please talk to Audra.
And will this vehicle be available for us politically challenged folks?
Yes, great for short people.
Hey, so Chris, it's great to see you. The last time I saw you at an EVA ASC meeting was 2008.
Oh,
After you explained the Paul Wilbur debacle.
Yes, sir.
A very drastic debacle. Very disappointing. So when you guys came back to life, it was fantastic. And
Oh, thank you.
I applaud you because that was so dramatic. And it's so exciting to be in this building after all that. So having gone through all that, where you are now, how do you feel? I mean, how's your outlook now?
Oh, I mean, thank you for the kind words. It's humbling, but it has been a long road for Aptera. For those of you that don't know, we had Aptera back in 2005, 2006. We had a good bit of fanfare, but I ended up leaving the company, and the company ended up liquidating in 2011. So it wasn't until 2019 that Steve and I were able to reacquire the company and restart Aptera. But now we have control of the cap table, so we don't have to worry about anything taking over Aptera. So Steve and I make the decisions for the future of the company, and it feels so great to have inspired. We have over 1 million people on social media following us now. We have 110,000 people on our newsletter list. The groundswell of support is just amazing, and I think it's because we started from a very virtuous place. We think the world can be a better place through cleaner, greener transportation, and we're trying to just lead the charge. So, thank you. Yes, sir.
If you could comment on development or production of the chassis itself.
Yeah, in Italy, they're used to making these crazy carbon fiber unibody chassis. We consider it a monocoque chassis, much more like an aircraft. A Cirrus aircraft is a monocoque structure. But they have lots of great forging capabilities in Italy too. So forging a lot of the pieces for the frame and the suspension and all that's going to happen in Italy, and then come to us basically as one unit. A rolling chassis is what they call it. But basically the body structure, the glazing, which is the glass, the doors, the seals, the hinges, the suspension, the wheels, and then we'll get it here in that form, and then have to put in the battery pack and put on the solar and put in the electronics. That's the name of the game, is get that whole body structure from Italy and then bring it here and assemble the rest of the vehicle. Yes, sir.
You mentioned earlier preconditioning for the battery. Are you guys going to have some system in place for like route planning, so like
Oh yeah.
from charger to charger?
Yep, most certainly.
So the precondition will be automatic?
The precondition will be automatic if you select a charging point, yes. Or you can do it from the app. We do hope to have an app in probably a couple months, but we're going to unveil the app first so we can get a lot of people testing the app. You can download it on your phone, you can have a virtual vehicle that you can go to. You don't have your vehicle yet, but hopefully get a lot of feedback from that. But
Yeah, on repairability, insurance rates are high on Teslas because of their habit of getting totaled.
Yep.
for relatively minor accidents. Is that gonna be addressed both with the insurance industry and in service centers?
it's a great question, kind of a softball. We're a right to repair company. So, years ago, people got really mad at Apple because you can't replace the battery in your phone. Then it became apparent, like, hold on, I buy these things, but I don't really control the long-term future of these things. I can't change my battery, can't do anything. We are not those guys. We are a right to repair company, which means that when you buy an Aptera, we give you all the information and parts resources you need to keep that Aptera on the road. So if you call us, we're going to send you a part within 24 hours of you needing one, and we're going to give you the information on how to fix it. So if you're in the middle of Australia and you're not anywhere close to an Aptera service facility, you can still go to a local mechanic or a local service shop, or you can do the repair yourself, which I've had problems with my Tesla, and Tesla has amazing service in Southern California, in my opinion. But even then, you gotta schedule an appointment, you gotta leave a window for a guy to come. I'm like, well, shit, this is a window regulator. I could have replaced that in 5 minutes, yet I had to slate out 3 hours of my day to wait for the service guy. Tremendous service in general regards, but for a lot of little things, you can imagine that maybe you just wanna do it yourself. In the bigger picture, impact resistance and stuff like that, I don't know if you remember a vehicle called the Saturn. They had SMC doors, and it wasn't carbon fiber SMC, it was glass SMC. But there was commercials of people hitting with a sledgehammer and shopping carts, and you get in minor accidents, and nothing would happen to the Saturn because the durability and the toughness of the material was such. That's the case that we'll be in, that you'll have to get into something pretty extreme to damage a part. But if you do damage a part, we have a very modular vehicle build. So everything's built in modules. So, worst case scenarios, you're literally replacing the monocoque structure of the vehicle. But that monocoque structure is, less than $10,000. So, if you take the front quarter off of a regular vehicle, you're probably in the $15,000 to $20,000 of damage range, which is why electric vehicles get totaled so much. Rear quarter, front quarter, you name it. If you damage a quarter of the vehicle, they don't put on a new quarter. The cool thing about our vehicles, everything's lightweight. At almost any mechanic shop, you can take off all the parts yourself or with very light equipment and actually fix the Aptera very quickly and easily. So we're proud to be a right to repair company, and we're proud to kind of have a vehicle that has the toughness and durability to stand up, but also if it is broken, the modularity to be able to fix it quicker. Hope that answers the question. Long-winded answer to you, but. Yes, this is considered a motorcycle. So 3 wheels in America gets you in the HOV lane for free, and it's classified as a motorcycle, so we get to use this really small plate in the back. But because it has 3 wheels, you don't have to have a motorcycle's license, and because it has something over your head, you don't have to wear a helmet.
So you talked about how the body manufacturing and the battery assembly is coming to the U.S. I think you'd mentioned some time ago that Alaf also might be coming to the U.S. Can you?
Yeah, Alaf makes our in-wheel motors. They're built in Slovenia now. They have amazing technologies. We also have a plan to build those motors here in the U.S. too. It's a little simpler than a lot of the other stuff we're seeing as a challenge, but they're from that green pole to that green pole, we can build 20,000 motors a year. So it's not a lot of space to build those. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So practical question: if you get a flat in the back, how do you change it?
The side panel of the rear wheel skirt comes off, so you can change the rear tire. And these front guys, they actually flip up like Lamborghini doors, so you can get to those tires. So if you have to put air in them, or if you have to change the whole tire, you just flip that outside cover. The cool thing about the front wheel pants is these front and rear parts are fungible. They're foam, so you can take them off if you want to go off-roading. But also, if you damage them, they're only $30 parts. So if there's something that you can upgrade over time, you could probably make them pink or whatever too if you wanted to add some accents. Yes, sir.
How will wheel alignment work? Is it something that will just be in a Aptera service? Or?
Yeah, a typical wheel alignment shop can do the wheel alignment. It's adjusted, typical tie rod, just like older vehicles. But there will be some special instructions on how to set the rear wheel. So if you go to a 4-wheel shop, they already know where to set the rear wheel side to side. You're going to take this to somebody and be like, "What did Sam Hale?" So there's some instructions on how to do that. But yes.
Will it take tire cables if we're going over the Sierra?
Well, yeah.
Will the horsepower vary with the battery pack size, and also what about 48 volts?
Yes, the battery pack size does make the vehicle behave a little different. The heavier battery packs aren't as quick, 0 to 60, those types of things. We have to have different spring rates and stuff for the bigger battery packs. So it's not a different horsepower, but it is a different feel for the vehicle, if that makes sense. We don't change the drivetrain for the bigger battery packs. You just get the bigger battery pack. So you get more range, but a little less performance. He also asked about a 48 volt system. Tesla's done a really cool thing. They've introduced a 48 volt power bus to their low voltage side that reduces the copper in your system, which is great. We've already gone to a point of use controller system. So we have little control boards all over the vehicle. So our wiring harness only consists of a power, ground, and communication wire. So we already have wiring harnesses that's 30% of the weight of a typical EV wiring harness on the low voltage side. So the bang for our buck to go to 48 volts isn't as much. And Elon has lots of cash, so he can pay to develop 48 volt devices, but there's not a supply chain for 48 volt devices right now. So we can't go out to a supplier and say, hey, you got a 48 volt thing? They're like, no, piss off. Or pay us a lot of money to develop it. So, we're not in the 48 volt game, but we hope that the industry goes there, and then one day we can be there. Way in the back, sorry to be ignoring people, but.
Can you talk a little bit about your current thinking about temperature management of the battery in the cabin? And do you do temperature management of the battery while the vehicle is off?
We do cold management when the battery's off. So if it's a really cold day, we'll keep the battery pack above freezing. Obviously, you don't want to use too much power to do that. You know, our battery system is adiabatic, so you know we try to use as little heat as possible to just keep it above freezing. But we have systems in place to manage that. And in the interior, you can precondition it with your app. So if it's a cold day, you can warm it up before you get in the vehicle.
What about in hot temperatures where you need to keep the battery cool?
Our particular batteries don't seem to have a problem with the heat, at least the heat on Earth. If we end up in Mars, then maybe it's a different equation. But the typical temperatures that you see, you know, hot tarmac up to 170 degrees, our particular chemistry and the way we design our battery pack, 170 degrees is no problem. So.
You mentioned a statistic of 6 people for 100,000 parts in Italy, which is pretty jaw-dropping statistic for manufacturing. So to actually put the car together here, how many people are actually in the assembly line, and how does that compare to current?
He was asking about building the vehicle here. How many people does it take here to build 20,000 vehicles a year? And it's about 30 people on the assembly line and about 50 people managing inventory and, you know, actually putting them on trucks and stuff like that.
How does that compare with like the current manufacturing?
We're probably about 1/5 of the manpower of another 20,000 vehicle a year shop. One more question. It's got to be a good one. It's got to be a good one. Who's got the best question? Go with this guy. All right.
So currently you don't qualify for the $7,500 tax credit. So some of us have started a letter writing campaign. We've written our Congress people, we've written the Congress members who sit on the SCDC. Besides writing those letters, what else can we do to help Aptera earn the $7,500 tax credit?
Oh, thank you so much for the question. I would love for the Aptera to exist in a regime where we can get the $7,500 federal tax credit. We are 3 wheels. We're considered a motorcycle, so we are outside of that regime. The state of California still has some cool incentives. There's even cooler incentives up in Oregon. But yeah, if you have connections to political representatives or anyone in your community that might have influence, please share our story. You know, the more Aptera followers and fans we have, the better our life is going to be. But you know, you can never overestimate our government's ability to fail on making the world a better place. You know, politicians aren't in the game for long-term strategies, and we're in it for the long term. I want my grandkids to inherit a better planet, and this is a way to do it. So yes, if you have any influence, please spread the word. But I appreciate everybody's time and hearing and learning about Aptera. Our website is aptera.us, so if you want to hit that up to see what we're all about. Let me know if you guys, I'm sure we have an EV Association code, so you guys can get 30% off of your pre-order if you want to pre-order. But I'm so happy to host you guys, and I know you'll have a fabulous day with us. So if you see me around, feel free to ask me any questions that you guys have. But thank you so much. Thank you.